the eclipse started and what it set out to be, and then what it ended up being. Now, the eclipse didn't create that, music created that. And it moved, and it went from being, 125 BPM, four to the floor, house music and Belgian music. As that progressed, the latter part of the eclipse became a rave club. It didn't start out really as a rave club. It started out as an all-night club, but the rave scene was just, kind of beginning to happen then. And it moved into this hardcore club.
As it changed, I changed, and I just wanted a different scene. I liked what we'd already had, but it was just changing and progressing.
A lot of the guys that were coming up from London, they used to love it at the Eclipse because they could play anything that they wanted.
Coventry liked it hard. That's why we had the innovating DJs.
We could go there and play tunes. Some places people be like, oh, I don't know. But when you go there, you can really lay it down.
Because I wasn't there from the very beginning of the Eclipse, but for me going there, it was what they called, it was turning into like hardcore with a break beat, and people were calling it jungle techno. It was coming from London, and it was coming up north.
Groove Rider had his own style. He was more about beats and just the sound.
If you're going to go there, you're going to get some grimy beats in your head.
Mickey Finn was the king of up north. Went for us lot down in London. Mickey Finn was the one doing it up north.
I loved where I was now hearing breaks from hip-hop, reggae bass lines.
We cutting onto it, Jason, the selector, and Mikey cutting onto it, you get what I'm saying? So we started kind of stretching it a bit to our kind of beat.
The Midlands had a lot of producers. Neil Tricks, Tango, Ratty, Fallout, you had SS, they were really bringing a new sound into the West Midlands, and that was our sound.
The London boys, they weren't playing that same music down there, and they weren't playing that same music further north, but when they came here, there's a certain type of dirty, darkness, grimy kind of tune they could play.
You could see a lot of the northern DJs, they stopped coming.
Behind us came Cream, with Sasha, John Digweed, and all them sort of DJs. The music we were playing, they carried on playing. So the crowds that we were getting were going.
We thrived off it. We were hardcore, we were dark, we were deep, dirty, nasty, you know what I mean? And we thrived off it. The Nasty Habit Society and all that Doc Scott was creating.
We had different people coming then. Our crowd had changed. The music had changed. The attitude had changed.
It was more that grinding you than reaching and having a massage off a geezer with some Vicks and that.
There weren't so many women coming to our event. It was more lads, more groups of lads and stuff like that. This was like a bit of a mind-bending sort of music. And in with that come a different sort of drum.
It all changed, everything changed.
Even the bad boys of the city, they were just in there for a good time. It soon became quite obvious that there was a good few quid to be made out of this place. People were starting to bring drugs in and making some serious money on a night as well as enjoying themselves. Cov's always been that sort of place where if someone spots an angle, it don't take long before everybody's trying that angle.
You'd have coachloads of people arriving from as far north as Scotland, Bristol, London, they'd come, and obviously the Eclipse had a lot of people congregating. It was a mecca for the Coventry hustlers, and a lot of people were getting they were getting hustled outside before they even got into the club.
If you're there and you're off your nut and you see someone say, have you got any pills, mate? And like you said, you're buying pills off them and they're dud. You're going back an hour later and they're like, fuck off. It was just the wrong attitude to what was there, a year ago.
Make a few quid from something that wasn't even going to get you nicked, and then go in and enjoy yourself.
You've got to remember is ecstasy played a massive part.
That car park was like an early TripAdvisor. A couple of bad experiences there and you never go back again.
I was hearing stories left, right and centre of people actually getting sold dirt and they're saying they're not going to come back again, and they didn't.
And then when I got my first booking, I was excited, as naturally you would be, you know. And then I went there, played a set, smashed the pieces out of it, and then that's how I met Stuart, the guy who runs it. They made me feel at home. Even the security was cool as well, although some people say they was whatever, but for me, I never got treated bad.
This place is run by business people again, not ravers or anything like that.
It was the first time that something like this was in the country. It's the first time that something like this was in Coventry.
They were just the wrong people for the rave scene.
It was run by people that you wouldn't want to mess around with, really.
They'd be pulling DJs and taking them into rooms, searching them and threatening them and stuff like that.
You'd never put those two people together to be business partners. I'd always had a lot of time for Stuart. Stuart was like, it was a bit of an older brother to me. He took me under his wing, and so like it's about Mick as well. And he sort of made us part of that club from day one, really. So we owe a lot to him.
Yeah, I was in the Eclipse one night with a couple of friends.
Someone came up to the DJ box and said, Baz wants to see you.
Coming down the stairs, a couple of doormen pulled me over.
Hands up in the air, hands up in the air, put your hands behind your head.
They decided to open a bit of a tuck shop, selling sweets, so to speak.
The boss was a notorious guy called Baz Edwards.
Unfortunately, he got caught. And back then, it was, you got your old knuckles wrapped for misbehaving.
So I went downstairs, went in the office. He said, shut the door.
Got frog marched downstairs.
The boss turned up and he told me to strip down. Anything I had on me was going to be his.
You got a credit card on you? I was like, yeah. So I pulled 2 credit cards out. One was mine and one was, which I thought was my mate's.
Whoa, this could get really ugly. I'm thinking to myself, I don't really want to be here. But I couldn't go anywhere. I stripped down.
And he was just about to feel the pain.
He said he was going to break my hands. And I'm like, what is going on here?
Then when I handed both of them over, I was actually informed, well, the one that you've got was actually stolen off somebody.
He told his boys to go and get a hammer because he wanted to break my hands.
And on the desk was a claw hammer.
I seen a hammer come in and he took the hammer and he said, no, it's too small. I want a bigger hammer.
So what are you doing with it?
Whoa, what is going on here?
It's come to my attention that you've been bringing drugs into the club.
When he said that, we were taxing his punters.
I was shocked and I was like, well, are you sure it's me? And he said, yeah.
I didn't do that.
Picked up the hammer and slammed it down on the desk. And said, I'll give you one more chance. You better be telling the truth.
The guy who got his stuff taken off him come in the room.
At which time Stuart came through the door. And I said, Stuart, I don't know what's going on.
And he said it wasn't me.
What can I say? I'm not. You can strip search me, check all my stuff, check my room at home.
But he got a reprieve. So they let him off.
And they actually found the person that actually took the card off the gentleman, so they let me go.
If the guy would have said, yeah, it was him, I would have got done.
And he went, right, okay, fine, off you go then.
I got out of the club unharmed.
He didn't joke, you know what I mean? I've heard stories that like people who were selling these in there, like they used to get their knuckles wrapped, and stuff like that, and their legs broken. And
I didn't need my membership card anymore because I was DJing there. So he had my membership card.
That's why the club was so successful, because he ran it with an iron fist.
If someone's coming to your club and they're selling drugs and putting your livelihood at risk, you're not making the money from it, of course you're going to do something about it.
And I think if you run a club like that, you in certain aspects, you've got to be tough. You're not going to allow somebody to get mugged in your club, are you? And it's not the sort of thing where you're going to go and hand them over to the police. You would deal with it there and then.
It was very scary, yeah.
That was part of the culture that come with the club. Did I agree with it? No, I didn't, but I can understand why it was done.
6 months later, I got called into the office. Because you seen this? This is like Stu and Baz. I says, what? Yeah, Sluggy got banned for life. Even though obviously he didn't, because he come back and doing the MCing and that. But he got banned for life, and there's a book on the front page is my membership card. So I am actually the first person to ever get barred from the Eclipse.
It wasn't like, they were bullying people or anything. It's just that you knew if you messed around in their club, something that wasn't good was going to happen.
maybe certain people are taking liberties. Maybe he got wind of certain people, members of staff, that had maybe brought drugs in or were doing drugs while they were working, and he wanted to put a stop to that.
Getting paid there, you know what I mean? Because I'd have to see Baz. Oh my God. You're walking, you're stoned, like, you don't need this at the end of the night, but you've got to, you're not going to get no money.
They'd send someone up to your bar, count all the pop, all the water again, and then your till had to tally up.
When we used to do the divvy up at, at the end of the night, Baz used to actually charge me for electric that I used on the night.
He'd be sat there at this table, he wouldn't even look at you, right? What do you want? Baz, I've come for my pay.
It's been like 2 months now. I didn't even have the guts to ask him myself. I said to Mick Parks, I said, do you think you could ask Stu if I could have some money?
What you done? I was MCing, I MC Groove Riders, that's how you was with him.
Stuart used to be squirming in his chair thinking, what's he doing? Like, I've just rammed his club, he's cleaned up behind the bar on the pop and the waters.
Then you take your till down, put your till in, count your money, count your pop, and then give you your wages and you're off.
So he went and asked me. Stu straight away said, oh, come here, you idiot. But, why didn't you ask me before? I says, I didn't want to be rude, like, He said, obviously it's an honour to be playing here anyway, so I didn't want to come across as cheeky.
Go, right now, if you use this much electric, I'm going to charge you at 50 or 100, whatever that. I was like, you having a laugh, like. So the sting, it was crazy time.
I was playing upstairs in the DJ stand, and my MC Fearless was downstairs, and it was back in '92. This guy came up to the DJ stand and rewound my record, like put his hand on my record and just stopped it. And I pushed, I said to them, get him out, and no one didn't move to him, so I moved to him and got him out. But then when I got him out, he came back in again and done it again. So I punched him and then just kicked off in the DJ stand. Fearless has come running upstairs. We had a fight with this geezer, security come and got him out. When the club finished, because we stayed there till the end, and we're sitting in the car, it was in the car, and the same guy came across the road from the car park and just like went on our windscreen and just looked at us like that through the windscreen, and it was so terrifying.
And also while that's happening, politically as well, there's like unrest in this country. And so while that's just over there though, and at the weekend, thousands of people are doing this. This merger of sort of like cultures and values and dress sense and music and whatever, this is like you say, this has never happened before, and I doubt it will ever happen again. And the reason, unless everything goes back to everyone hating each other and then starting again.
I don't know about the terminology, but I know the music was there anyway. Tracks like We Are E would have been regarded as a hardcore track back then. But it's also a jungle track.
It's a really, really tricky one to pick out that one moment when you're thinking there's like a seismic change in scene happening here.
Fabio, Groove Rider, all the big name DJs, Jumping Jack Frost, Ray Keith, all these sort of DJs, they were creating this sound called jungle techno.
It was just progression, so suddenly hearing kind of darker sounds in tracks didn't make me go, crikey, we're going to have a whole new subgenre here.
How music evolved into jungle and drum and bass, the reason it evolved was tempos.
And some of the tracks were kind of a little bit more polished as well. People were becoming a little bit more familiar with engineering and production and stuff.
You couldn't make four-to-the-floor house music at those kind of tempos. So you had to introduce breakbeats. And that's where everything evolved from.
And then there was these crazy noises of just wild, hard to understand. There's never been music made like this before, but it was just hard to understand this.
I used to do Fantasy FM and take hip-hop tunes and play them on 45 and mix break beats over the top of a house tune. So the break beat for me was what I loved. coming from the same camp and Shut Up and Dance, we're the same family. The breakbeat was what we were trying to put into everything.
Once you did get to understand it, some of it was quite good, but a lot of it come from Detroit and places like that, Belgium. Probably one of our first DJs that got into this sort of hardcore music was DJ Doc Scott, who created a track called NHS and had lots of winding and reversing noises in it.
Because, you know, we had banging tunes. We put a lot of work into the events. We put our nastiness nights on there. We worked really, really hard. But there were some promoters that came in and put a night on there, didn't promote it. And if it goes from having busy nights every week to once a month, what's happening to the other 3 weeks in that month? People are choosing to go elsewhere. And the successful clubs seem to be the ones that are promoted by a singular entity rather than multiples going in and using it as a venue, because then it loses its exclusivity as the Eclipse and it just becomes a venue.
And Eclipse was just that way we could all go together. No matter where we came from, we had us up from up south, we had them up from the Midlands, you had Easy D and them not from up north, do you know what I mean? And everyone would come to the Eclipse and showcase, and it was just one big family, do you know what I mean? The music was hella dark then though, man, it was really dark. It's a proper dark vibes.
The drugs did change along with the music. We had New Yorkers, China White, you know, it got a lot harder and grimier along with the music as well.
I think it was the evolution of us having something very British, you know, and wanting something very British, and that's what was changed. Obviously, the drugs played a big part of it.
The drugs are designed for the sort of music that's being distributed by and made by DJs or someone in a bedroom. It's more of a deep sound. It get into your head more. It weren't uplifting vocals, and it was more of a mind game.
It was just coming through then, so it was fresh, and that's what the people wanted to hear.
You didn't know what Groove Idol was going to play next. You didn't know what DJ Ron was going to bring. You didn't know what LSD was bringing. You didn't know whether Tango's PA was going to be amazing. You didn't know what new material he was going to play. But what you did know is they were all going to bring loads of different music. And that was your night out.
I had that raver's mind when I was DJing, because I used to take the drugs as well. When I first started playing at Eclipse, I never knew that I was being recorded. It's only when certain other DJs started to get the ump about it, that's when I realised, oh, what, they're recording me.
To be honest with you, I didn't even know it was Stuart back then. Till years later on down the line, I didn't know it was him that was doing the tape backs.
Bringing DAT machines into the club to record, so I'm sure he had more than one DAT machine.
Stuart's come up, he's like, we're going to record you tonight. And in a way I was sort of, but wow, yeah, we're actually going to be recording.
And he's recording like proper quality sets.
Right, I don't want no MCing. No MCs on this. I didn't think nothing of it really at the time. So I played my set.
In fact, I think that was the first ever place I think I got taped, to be honest with you. Got recorded.
Well, 6 weeks later, I was sat in the reception. This big box comes in. So we've opened the box. It was this Sasha 6. I thought, Sasha 6? We ain't played here for ages.
He was smart. He bought in the DAT machine and he got the fullness of the quality of the music.
What's this Sasha 6 then? I said, that's Carl Williams 1. You can't do that. I says, 1, it's shit. I says, and 2, it's me. It's like, this is how it'll be, all right.
And then he started to put it onto cassette tape.
So they originally started with individual packs per DJ, individual tapes.
Mickey was the tape man in our firm. He had over 250 shots, Mick did. He was on the road 6 days a week. Stuart cottoned onto it as well. you know, so we were all going to the same shops all over the country. Stuart had lads out driving for him, but we were all doing it.
Then you had a 2-pack, then a 4-pack, then an 8-pack, and suddenly you had the whole night in a box.
And he was the first one who I knew to do that.
You think about it, it's a very clever marketing idea. So you're getting the Eclipse and wherever, you know, any rave or whatever happened around that period, you're getting it into people's houses.
I didn't actually realise that people were actually making money from it.
To actually get the tape packs and hear who was playing the stuff out also helped from a record label point of view because we knew who was supporting us.
I'd DJ at 7 o'clock in the morning and there's no one in there.
I don't suppose they were looking at it like that. They just wanted to get their tapes out and make some money.
They didn't mind because the tapes were selling.
Then other DJs was a bit pissed off about being recorded and not getting paid. So, but I think some of them approached it the wrong way.
I don't know if the DJs knew about it. I don't even know if they agreed to it.
Sometimes there was no one in there all night, but the DAC machine was running and that's all that mattered because it was bringing a lot of revenue.
And he was good as gold. Come round my house in the weekend, gave me his address, come round and see me, here's your money. So I never had a problem with getting taped as long as I was getting paid for it, you know? So Stuart, like I said, Stuart used to look after me proper.
You never had a problem with tape packs being sold. And I think they were great.
And I was getting paid for my own advertising kind of thing. So that's how I saw it, you know? And it got me more recognition.
There was a generation of people then who weren't old enough to go to clubs, but they could experience a club in their bedroom.
They created a whole industry and they set a model that was copied worldwide. You got to Camden Market in London and you had market stalls with these tape packs selling all, and they all started from the Eclipse.
And their brothers and sisters who were the ones who had gone to the Eclipse and the raves before that were telling them about all this and they could experience that.
Even now, people are like, oh, these tapes, those tapes are still legendary now.
And they were the next generation of people who were going out in the 2000s.
One time I got stopped by police and it was gun police and they opened up the back of the car. Obviously they was looking for guns and I said, I'm a DJ, and they said, what DJ are you? And I told them, and they started telling me about where I played. No, we used to come and listen to you and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, I had drugs in the car, they let me off, they just let me drive off, you know what I mean? So, you know, that was a big part of, you know, just being on them cassette tapes.
When the scene first started, everyone was there and for each other. But then the old Coventry attitude started creeping in towards the end and people could see that they could take advantage of situations.
Stuart and Baz weren't around, like, you know, I mean, I was sort of involved, but not directly involved with the money. I was still doing the odd Amnesia House event in there. And obviously, when the main men ain't there, you lose control, you know. They had Pekka, he'd done quite a good job as best as he could. They had Baz's wife, Mary, you know, they still had the same security, but it wasn't controlled like it should have been.
But there was getting a bit of a dodgy element in there, I was thinking, towards the end. You kind of had the gangs mooching around, freaking people out, taxing people in toilets, that I didn't enjoy.
It became quite stagnant, but it also became, well, it could be quite a vile place at times as well.
And I think towards the end of the Eclipse, that was the beginning for every other club. And that's where they took all the punters. It's my theory on it.
I don't think it's when the scene went commercial. I think that's when the commercial scene couldn't hold rave back anymore. It got that big. It's like radio didn't play a lot of the rave stuff, whereas Radio 1 liked to break a tune and get it into the charts. They had no control over the rave stuff. They weren't the ones breaking it. If you imagine how many raves are going on up and down the country and clubs like the Eclipse every single weekend, when a tune comes out, if a certain percentage of all the people who've been out raving buy that tune, bam, it's in the charts, you can't stop it. And I think with the Hitman in Her thing, that many people had said to the Hitman in Her, you need to do a rave special. This is what's happening in clubs.
It was rammed outside. It was like the beginning of when the Eclipse opened, you know, the buzz about the place. And there was queues going all the way back.
What's her name? What was her name? Michaela Strachan, was it, or something? No.
Michaela Strachan, absolute scared shitless.
I'm sure Pete was nutted that night.
Pete Waterman sweating his bits off.
And it was a bit of a coup, really.
The vibe in there was amazing. I mean, it was Carl Cox was playing.
You had Fantasy.
They'd never seen anything like that before. The electricity of the crowd. When the tune came in, the place would just go bananas, like crazy. The noise, the energy.
You know, the type of people that are in there, they were from all over the country again, you know, like it was before. Not just your localised Midlands, it was people from Scotland, London, Bristol, Southampton.
It was an amazing night, absolutely rammed.
And I think that was probably one of the best nights I've been in there, you know, the Hitman and Her, because it's still being talked about now.
It was absolutely rammed. There was like a condensation dripping off the ceiling. As well as it being a good night, a bit of a commercial night, it was also a bit of a sad ending.
We even got P.P. Arnold, who's like a 60s soul singer, to come up from London and perform on stage in a sweaty rave. You know, it was a bit of a mad night.
Alternate did a live PA.
At the beginning, you could go there every week and know you were going to have a good event. Towards the end, you were hoping it was going to be a good night.
I think it had run its course. I think it had come to the end of its story.
It's starting to become that same place. The expectations stay the same.
They're kind of like running on fumes.
Unless you're going to continuously keep changing the face of a club, it's going to get stout.
Myself and Toz, Distortion, we ended up covering a lot of slots. DJs were either not turning up or allegedly not turning up.
Towards the beginning, they put a lot of work in to draw those punters in, and they were fresh and it was promoted properly.
And it's a shame because I think the journey for the club was only cut short.
Towards the end, it was more of a reliance on hoping people would turn up.
Because of the shenanigans that were going on in the car park.
And actually, a lot of promoters then, because everybody wanted to be a promoter, right?
People getting sold dead ecstasy pills.
The promoter would think, well, we're putting an event on in the Eclipse. We're going to sell out. But it didn't work like that.
People getting robbed inside the club.
The Eclipse had gone from being a name to being a venue. And when you turn it into a venue, it relies on the promoters to do the work, not the Eclipse.
And I think that really brought the curtain down on what was a great club.